YouTube Ozico, the Goat House is back. Today we're going over the ultimate boom or bust prospects, in my opinion, in this 2023 draft class. There's quite a few big ones here. Also, we'll talk about their potential landing spots. Gave top 3 fits, in my opinion, for each of these prospects. So exciting stuff here. We have loads of NFL draft content on the channel. You can head over our channel, check out that recent content. We definitely have a lot more to come here. Before the draft, during the draft, after the draft, we'll be live during day 1 of the NFL draft right here. Live streaming on YouTube. Day 2 and 3 live analysis on our Twitter. It's an absolute must follow. Link pinned in the comments for our Twitter. Anything else on your screen that interests you, this Titans chain or other NFL teams, you get that from the GLD shop, our sponsors. Anything like that, links pinned in the comments. Obvious one to start, Anthony Richardson. I still got to get blinds. I got the sun glaring right on me, but it's all right. We're going to work through it. But an obvious boomer bust guy, Anthony Richardson, the quarterback from Florida, who, actually lately it sounds like, could he drop a little bit? All this talk about him going top 5, is that fading away now? Is it smoke? But some fits, scheme fit / where I think he can land, who can get the most out of him. I think it's a good mixture of that. Like Colts, a pretty good scheme fit, and that Shane Steichen offense, using the quarterback's legs, using his power, kind of like he did with Jalen Hurts. Seahawks, I think it's a really good fit where a team can get the most out of him, sitting behind Geno Smith. What they did with Geno Smith, it's a guy that does need to sit. Makes a lot of sense. And then the Tennessee Titans, they liked Malik Willis and his legs. I think this is a bigger, better, more upside version of Malik Willis. All 3 of these teams possibly could land him as well. So I felt pretty good about those fits. I only listed 3 for each team, so I challenged myself a little bit. I suppose you could, of course, list more teams if you wanted to, and you know who those teams are probably. But yeah, but a boomer bust guy for sure, because you look at the tape in his play at Florida, his limited play, I'd say, compared to some other quarterbacks. It wasn't that great, obviously, the play, mainly with the accuracy, inconsistencies there. What was great was the flashes. He would have some throws here and there that were pretty crazy, like Mahomes, like almost in a way, not exactly, but they would show up here and there, and then using his legs. You can make a highlight tape out of that, of course, but maybe how he could boom is using all that talent, like the athletic ability, the power, not with just running, but with throwing as well, and how do we get that out of him? I think it's just 2 things really, and they kind of go together, like cleaning up the footwork, the base. A lot of times I see him throwing on his toes. Like, it's very hard to throw like that, and then he'll be inaccurate a lot of times on the layup throws, which you don't love to see, him being off target on a wide open layup throw, underneath throw, or 15 yards down the field at a maximum. A lot of those he missed. But if he fixes that footwork, which I think is very doable, that will help. And then taking a little bit off of the ball. Not every throw needs to be a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, of course. So, and he could add some more touch to some of these throws, too. It kind of goes into that. So, I think these are some doable things, for him. And he's very limited. More reps can definitely help as well. So, that says some upside there. But, yeah, he's been inaccurate with the ball. The footwork's been a little sloppy. So if he doesn't clean those things up, he will be a bust. He'll continue with the under 60%, lower 50% completion percentage, which is not going to get the job done in the NFL. And usually, most of the time, that doesn't change going from college to the NFL, but there are some things that he can clean up, and that'll actually help. We've seen it with some very limited players in the NFL, in NFL history, college to the NFL. Josh Allen, clean up the mechanics, and that helped his accuracy. But and we've seen other guys clean up their mechanics too, but not all the time does it really boost your accuracy. Hoping that's the case with Anthony Richardson. What I love for him from him watching him is that he actually wants to be a pass first guy. All this running talent, he wants to be a pass first guy. Has flashes from the pocket. He could be a better pocket passer. He can be that guy, and I love that, because you have to be that guy first before a runner to win a championship, to win a Super Bowl. You can't be your strength can't be the running, in the NFL. And we don't have to judge him on that right away. It's going to take some time. But yeah, so that's why he could be a boom or a bust guy here. A lot of upside, but a lot of risk. And there's another quarterback on this list. I'm sure you expected it. It's Will Levis. Some similarities there. I mean, a physical guy, could run if you need him to. Super strong arm. I mean, eye-popping arm strength, really. And he's had good flashes, good moments. He actually had a pretty damn good season in 2021, a little bit of a letdown in 2022. Lost his offense coordinator. Play calling wasn't that great. Offensive line was an absolute disaster. But he still had some rough decision-making. But right away, how could this be a boom guy? Just get him a better offensive line, a better play calling. Right there, he's already a little bit better, especially with NFL weapons. That's not going to do all of it, though. He'll be better with decision making. He was a little beat up this year at times, too. Maybe too many hits, maybe running and lowering his shoulder a little too much. So is that going to pop up? But get him healthy, that could be great as well. But a big thing for me, and I've voiced my opinion on this quite a bit, he's lacking touch on the ball, like not knowing his own arm sometimes, like how to place the ball correctly. Downfield balls were short sometimes, and that's not because of his arm strength. It's because he doesn't really know how to place that ball in there. Sometimes, a lot of the time, that doesn't really change, throughout a career. It's either you can do it or you can't. But if you clean up some of these mechanics, you can get that out of him. And some similar fits. I'm starting to think the Colts will take him at 4 if he's there. The Texans could move up from 12 to get him, and the Titans could get him around their range. I thought about putting the Raiders in here as well. It was a strong possibility, kind of tough leaving them out, just limited to 3 for each of these prospects. I think all of these are obvious, really, but receiver Quentin Johnston from TCU. I mean, big, long, super athletic. I mean, it's kind of rare that you see, somewhat rare that you see the big body, like good size, good build, and freaky athletic. Those guys in NFL history turned out to be pretty good, so that's obviously a good sign. He had big play potential, just kind of just get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. Very productive. Yardage-wise for the most part. So those kind of reasons why it could be a boom guy. Bust guy is, he was limited to one side of the field with very, very limited route tree. Didn't get a whole lot of separation. Receivers especially the recent years that have had those negatives, like they're kind of do one thing on one side of the field, limited route tree, doesn't get a whole lot of separation. Those guys, like 90% of the time lately, have been busts. So that's the tough part, too. And for a big guy, you want to see him high point the ball. He does not high point the ball enough, and he has some drops. So there actually is a list of negatives for Quentin Johnston. But if he can figure it out, if he can start high pointing the ball a little bit more, if a team just uses him on multiple sides of the field with more of a route tree, I guess the question will he be able to do it? Will he be able to read coverages? If he could do that, it's a little bit of a mystery. There's really no he can or can't do it right now. We really don't know. Like, no, everybody, you can sit here and say, oh, he will, he can do it. You can say that all you want. You could be right or wrong, but nobody really knows. It's going to the matter of getting him in there. I think teams bringing him in for visits. He actually had a lot of visits. I think it's for that reason. You bring him in, you get him on the whiteboard, or give him some film and, what coverage is this? I think you kind of test him a little bit. That's probably why he had so many visits. So teams might know, actually, but we just don't know. It's a guess right now. Will he be able to, in terms of that, play on, in multiple alignments, play, run these extra routes, be able to read coverages, because we don't know based off that TCU film. So if he can clean up a few of those things, which is tough to clean up, but he's a freaky dude, he will be really good. I think depending on the team, too. I mean, it's for everybody, but it really is huge. And, the Saints are listed because that just feels like a Saints guy that they're looking for, like a big body, athletic guy, that they could be interested in the future is Chris Olave. Obviously, you want to find another guy, maybe try to turn him into a Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is definitely a little bit more polished coming out, of Ohio State, ability to play in the slot, a little more to his game. So I like the fit of kind of maybe what they're looking for. And the Vikings and the Chiefs are on here because I like the fit in terms of maybe those teams can get the most out of him. I mean, the Vikings, is this their type of guy, though? They might be in more of the shifty, separator guy. But if he goes with Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell's offense and, everyone's focused on Justin Jefferson, the double teams that, he gets, and Quentin Johnston's receiver too, I like his chances to be able to do some sort of damage there. And with the Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Kelsey, they get the most out of any receiver pretty much. I feel pretty good about his chances there too. So for his sake, I kind of hope he ends up on teams like that, that can get the most, that can help him, where he's not locked down by a top corner. But he does have some negatives that he has to work out. So you can see the boom or bust here for a guy like Quentin Johnston. I got a running back on here. I got Zach Evans from Ole Miss. This is a big play, home run hitting type of guy. This guy can see the hole. He can hit it. He can fly afterwards. He can make people miss. He's got a pretty good combination of, quickness, speed, some power, and there's good, nothing insane in those categories. He's nowhere near elite in those categories, but he's got it across the board there. So he could be a boom guy because he kind of has the total package, of running. Like he could be like a poor man's, Dalvin Cook, maybe a guy like that. So he kind of has the collection of traits that you look for, and he's been a big play guy, TCU and Ole Miss. Why he could be a bust guy. He was a top recruit, never fully lived up to expectations. Been really good, but never fully lived up to expectations. Never really got the full load. Never really got him going. Had some injuries pop up here and there. He hasn't caught the ball well out of the backfield or downfield at all, and you need to do that in the NFL. And a lot of times he kind of just forces his way to the sideline. Maybe he doesn't want to take too many hits, but it's a receiver thing. You can't really do that in the NFL as a running back, but maybe he saved himself for the pros. So there's some things there where it says, okay, this guy could be really good. He could end up being, a legit starting running back, like Pro Bowl caliber down the line. But there's some things like, well, if he doesn't change that, or if he doesn't improve on that, then, he's not really going to be used enough to see those positives. So that's the thing with Zach Evans. It's a guy, when you watch him, you want to put him at, running back 3 in this class behind the obvious 2, obviously, in Bijan and Gibbs. But then there's some things where it's like, can he figure this out? Our team's going to use him enough, so maybe you don't want to put him that high. Some people have him really low, probably for those reasons. I like the fit, a lot of scheme fits here. I like the fit with the Cowboys, their kind of balanced running schemes and looking for another back. And the Bengals, who knows what's going to happen with Mixon. Balanced running schemes, could use another guy for the future. And the Seahawks, I think, would be a pretty good pairing behind Kenneth Walker there, who was a standout rookie last year. So some good fits. I mean, he's tough. A million teams can draft a running back around where he's going to go, like late 3, early 4. So I could list a million teams there. But that's a boomer bust guy for sure. Next, Broderick Jones, ultimate boomer bust guy. Offensive tackle from Georgia. I mean, this guy is like maybe one of the highlighted ones of this video. And I didn't really expect that, going and watching the film. But this guy's either going to be a freaky elite tackle, or he's going to end up being a backup and always trying to figure it out. Like, he's still trying to figure it out, like one of those guys. I feel like he's not going to be in between there. I mean, right away, it's going to be like, he's probably going to struggle right away. It's be like, yeah, he's got upside. And that's fair. That's fair. But, down the line, 3-4 years from now, we're either going to be saying this guy is one of the very best in football, or what a bust that guy was. Like, he's a backup trying to figure it out. That's the type of guy I think he is. His tape overall this past year really wasn't that good. Like, from what we actually saw, like, take away like upside and projections, different fits, where we can put him in, how he could be in the future, just based off the tape, it doesn't really feel like first round at all. Like, it really wasn't that good. A lot of putting his head down, trying to block with his body, which I do not want to see from tackles. A lot of whiffing. Just inexperience kind of showed. But whenever, he had his good moments, they were really good moments. Whenever Georgia got him out in space, you see like slip screens, or whenever he got downfield, it looked really good. Like, because he's quick. He's quick, he's athletic, and he has some power in him as well. So whenever he got the chance to combine that, mainly showcase the athleticism, the footwork, it looked pretty. It looked pretty damn good. But I don't think he did enough of that. Georgia, a lot of inside running, inside zone and gap. So I'm kind of thinking, and maybe not every team thinks this, but I'm kind of thinking outside zone, where you get him out in space more and more, because that's where he looked really good. That's where he can kind of use his athleticism, his quickness. I think he'd be really good that way, but it's not going to be right away. It's a little bit of a gamble, switching schemes, and he does have the least amount of snaps played out of all the tackles in this class, and he played for Georgia, and he was overall pretty solid. So that kind of says, upside. That screams upside, actually. So some teams I really like his fits that also could draft him: Bears, Steelers, Jets. Good fits could draft, like I said. Other teams could as well. There's some teams that would get him, and I'm not really going to love the fit. I really want him to go to like an outside zone team. I think that can get the most out of him. Again, his tape really wasn't that good. It almost says, like, if he keeps going at that rate, he's definitely a bust. But you're drafting this guy purely off of upside. Like, purely off of, you're probably not going to get a whole lot from him right away, unless your offensive line staff is ridiculous. And I guess maybe he has elite guys around him, but just a pure upside guy, so curious to see where he lands, and mainly based on scheme, and see if I'm right, kind of projecting him to kind of switch schemes there. So definitely a highlighted one of this video here. Next, another tackle, Wanya Morris from Oklahoma, former Tennessee tackle, played right for Oklahoma. This was a former 5-star recruit, like a lot of hype, big time player even coming out of high school. But he has the size, the length, like the build, the length, and the athleticism. He's a pretty damn good athlete to be. That's why he was a 5-star guy, because you're kind of off of projections, and he has all those things to be a really good tackle. I mean, the best tackles in football kind of have that build, and the athleticism these days. So he has all the upside in the world. He's just a little sloppy right now. The mechanics aren't there, and you got to work with him a little bit. But I'd like him at right tackle on a team, that maybe can get the most out of him, to develop him a little bit. The Bears are a rebuild team. They could use a right tackle. They're looking for length, and they're looking for athleticism, and that would make sense, if they missed out on a guy, earlier in the draft. The Bengals definitely could use a right tackle. They have another former Oklahoma tackle at left in Orlando Brown, who left the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have been really good developing their offensive linemen. And they could use a right tackle. They're gonna move Jawan Taylor to left. They can use that right tackle. So I'd really, really like him. That's kind of where I hope he goes. I hope he goes to the Chiefs. It makes a lot of sense to the Bears, but I hope he goes to the Chiefs because they will get. I'd be confident with my takes on his the teams, getting that upside out of him, which I'm higher on Morris than pretty much everybody, because I'm kind of banking on. Maybe not the full upside, but that upside. I think it's worth the risk they're taking him on day 2. Next, talking about some defensive players, Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, who was super productive of pass rusher from the inside, very flashy, very athletic, obviously. But this is a guy that, if he continues to do that, he doesn't even have to be as productive, but if he continues to be productive and super good in the passing game, then, in a passing league right now, he's going to thrive. He's going to be used quite a bit, but he's a guy that has struggled to get off blocks. He's definitely undersized, especially with his length. Not super effective on running downs. He does have some flashy plays here and there, but mainly the issue comes together with just, getting off blocks. He kind of relies on his first move, which is pretty good, but if the early move does not work, he's latched. He's really not getting off the block. So there's a scenario where he's just as dominant in the passing game, and he's just got to be used, and he's going to be productive, and then he's a boom guy. Or there's a scenario where, teams don't want to really use him a whole lot, only on obvious passing downs, and maybe he continues to struggle to get off blocks, and that length kind of plays a big factor like it does in today's NFL. So there's kind of two sides of it there. That's why more likely he's not going to go in the first round, even though there's a lot of people that think he is. But I think there's a lot of fits there, but some fits that stood out to me. I think more so to look at him in the second round. But teams that could use like a pass rushing defensive tackle, but definitely an interesting prospect to say the least. Keion White's another one who's kind of growing on me a little bit, but his tape wasn't that great. And it's kind of a question of, is he a tweener? What do we do with him? But that's why he's kind of growing on me, because I'm kind of figuring out what I would like to do with him. But yeah, I kind of want a 3-4 team to take him, and you can use him at 3-4 end and at 3-4 outside linebacker, where he actually can rush or drop in coverage. But he could be that 4-3 end as well. But I think it's a guy you got to move around a bit. But yeah, he's a boomer bust guy. But he's 24 years old. He's kind of new to the position. He's not fully ready. He's not fully there. He's still learning at age 24. And he's got to add a lot more to his game, a lot more knowledge, and a lot more pass rush moves if he's going to be an edge rusher on the outside. So for those reasons, he could be a bust, and he might be known as if he is a bust, he might be known as one pretty quick, because teams might want him to figure it out right away because he's 24. But why he's a boom guy is you just don't see. I mean, these looking at the guy, like maybe reading his weight and his size. These are the guys from like 10, 15 years ago that were dominant. Like these were your defensive ends then. But he has way more athleticism than those guys. So it's just like freaky dude that's just kind of one of a kind that kind of can take over a mixture of old school and new school. And I think he's pretty position versatile too. So, but if you get the most out of him, if you kind of get him going, get him learning the position pretty early on, and you use him right, he can be damn good. But the Saints would like him as a 4-3 end. The Packers would like him moving around a bit, 3-4 outside linebacker, maybe a little 3-4 end. Titans would make sense too, because they move their guys around a bit. Look at a guy like Danico Autry, big guy, got the power for the inside, but they use him on the outside, and somehow it works. He's a good player out there too. So I think that'd be a pretty good fit there. The team that can kind of get the most out of him. Be too early for the Packers. The Titans take him in their first round pick, maybe a trade back or maybe a second round pick. He's growing on me though, just because the idea of him and how he could be used, but the tape really overall wasn't that good. It's kind of another one of those guys, but you kind of can just see. I don't want to say it's bad. The tape definitely wasn't bad. There's some flashy moments, but you kind of could see the upside there. Another defensive lineman that's pretty versatile is Tamiwa Adeborowa, the defensive lineman from Northwestern, who is more of an edge rusher but also played inside. I like his chances inside, more of a 3 technique. I think his flashes were on an inside move from the edge, and he could be a freaky athletic guy from the inside, and he has the power as well. He has plenty of length for the inside. He does not have plenty of length from the outside. So I'd prefer him as kind of like a 3 technique that you also can move outside. So who's looking for athletic guys that can move around a bit? And the Bears, the Texans, the Eagles are, depending on what they do in the first round. If they still need a guy like that in the second round, and maybe the Eagles take him at the very end of the first round. Maybe it's a risky pick. It's a boomer bust guy. Like, he's either gonna use that athleticism and reach that potential, being that freaky dude that moves around a bit. Or he's just going to be just that athletic guy. Like, and he's just not going to figure it out there, because right now he doesn't have it figured out, but it's really okay right now. So it's another one of those ultimate boomer bust guys there. The freak athleticism. If he plays interior, he's the fastest guy to ever play the interior. Out of anybody, the fastest guy to play the interior defensive line. So that's interesting if he plays in there, which I think he will mainly. Tyree Wilson, who's going to be a top pick. He might be the second overall pick. I put him up here, which maybe a lot of people wouldn't put him up here. But, it's a freaky dude when you look at the power and you look at the length. Super freaky. He's good stopping the run. That's why he almost didn't go on this list, because maybe if he doesn't work out to where he thinks he's going to work out, like where you think he's going to work out, he's still going to be a pretty good run defender. But how often are you going to use him then? It depends on the team, I suppose. So that's why he's still a boomer bust guy. To me, off the edge, he doesn't have the get off right now. And sometimes you don't really see a guy just all of a sudden get the explosiveness off the line out of nowhere, So I don't love them. The best pass rushers in football, they have it. He has like everything else. Everything else but that, So if he can't get better in that category, he's not going to live up to the hype, the second pick or a top 5 pick, whatever it is, of an edge rusher. But if a team grabs him, and if they use him inside and outside, because I think he could be a big-time mismatch on the inside, and he's already powerful enough, and he stops the run well enough from the inside. He could be. Some of the best players in football they're up there because they dominate here and there, and they line up in multiple different spots. Or some guys, or maybe they're not elite, but they're known as very good because they do that. Like, he could be one of those guys that moves around a bit. And because he can play from both spots, and that's where he could be the boom guy. If he's not used, if he's just used off the edge, I'm afraid he might be a bust guy, unless he figures out that get off, and then that he can be a boom guy if he figures that out. But if you use him in multiple spots, he's going to be a boom guy. I think it's that simple. But look at the Bears, the Texans is a really good fit. We've talked about that in the past. I think D'Amico Ryans would use him off the edge and the inside, kind of like how we used Armstead with the 49ers. The Bears, I think Eberflus would move him around a bit. Eberflus would actually put Buckner over the tackle, and he was definitely more of a D tackle than Wilson, but you can see he can move around a guy like that a bit. And the Patriots, Bill Belichick moves around guys a bit. He can have him stand up off the edge. You can have him hand the dirt. Dietrich Weiss, upgrade over Dietrich Weiss, who's kind of like your 3-4 end that moves around a bit as well. So I would actually really like that fit. He's being mocked to teams like the Seahawks and the Falcons. I don't really love those fits. With the Falcons, I could argue, because he seems like, Ryan Nielsen coming from the Saints, body type and measurables, it just seems like a Saints type pass rusher, which the Falcons probably are looking for. But again, I think you got to use this guy all over the place, or not all over the place, but outside and inside. I don't think they would do that. So I really wouldn't love the pick that much. So these are the three. Raiders actually could be a sneaky one, because you saw them use Crosby on the inside a little bit too. But maybe they can use Wilson more in there, and then Crosby rush on the outside of him. Man, that would be scary. So the Raiders could be up here as well. But yeah, an interesting prospect that's at the top of the NFL draft. Another one, Lucas Van Ness, who I'm not really as high on as everyone else, but I could see the upside because he's a freaky dude, got the length, got the athleticism, high motor guy, pretty damn powerful, can play outside and inside. He does project more as an outside guy in the NFL. I don't know if he'll be able to get away with what he got away with in college on the inside, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, he didn't start. He didn't have the crazy production. He kind of had flashes. He had some production, but he had flashes and kind of disappears sometimes. So if he goes to the NFL and that kind of continues, is he not a starter? Is he, just a flashy guy once in a while, and then he kind of disappears? Then he's, to me, he's a bust guy, I guess, depending on where he gets drafted, but where we think he's going to get drafted. But if he kind of puts it together and, stays a little more consistent and figures it out, then he can be a really good pass rusher, obviously, and kind of use those strengths like the get off, the length, the power, the athleticism. But kind of middle of the first round is kind of where I'm thinking, even though some people have him a little bit earlier, but there's some fits there that kind of make some sense in terms of play style, scheme fit, things like that. Next, we got Nolan Smith, another edge rusher. I mean, just freaky athlete here. A guy that can drop in coverage and stop the run as well. But, good build to him. Not in terms of you wish he was a little heavier, a little thicker, but, in terms of muscle, looks pretty good. But he's just a freak athlete. Explosive, fast, all of that. So, if he goes to the NFL team and, because right now as a pass rusher, he's just kind of relying on his speed. And tackles can get him off balance, and I think NFL tackles definitely would. They're faster, they're stronger than the college tackles. But if an NFL team brings him in and develops a little bit more and gets him more size, more strength on him, and gets him learning more ways to win than just his speed off the outside and the get off and the speed, more ways than just that, just relying on that, then he could be special because you can use him in unique ways too, because he can drop in coverage. He's pretty good stopping the run, but if he goes into the NFL where he's at right now and kind of stays similar, where he's decent stopping the run and he can help you dropping in coverage, not going to do anything crazy dropping in coverage, but where he can do that for you. But as an edge rusher, he just, again, relies on that get off, and which is good in the speed. Tackles will bully him a little bit, and that's where he'll be kind of that bust player. So looking at teams like the Titans, the Seahawks, and the Patriots, I think, good at using them multiple ways, moving him around a little bit maybe. You don't really need to move him around a bit. You want him off the edge, but using him in different ways, I suppose. Different responsibilities, like kind of how he had at Georgia, which he'll get more pass rush opportunities than he did at Georgia. They had him kind of sitting and reading, dropping a coverage. But yeah, I'm a little, it's a boomer bust guy, taking him where people are kind of, some talk about the Falcons. I think it's too early. It's a little bit too much of a risk, around that range. But the guy that's growing on me just because it looked like he put on, more muscle, even seeing him at the combine where he put on a freak show, obviously in a good way. So is he still, and he was a former 5-star recruit, so is he still developing? Of course he is, but can he rapidly develop like we think maybe he could? And could the team get the NFL, to depend on what NFL team he goes to? So he's kind of growing on me, I guess, depending on which team he goes to here, but definitely a risky one, definitely where we're talking about him going. Then two more here. Drew Sanders, another one. He played off-ball linebacker for 1 year. He looked pretty damn good there. He was a former edge rusher. Pretty flashy. Pretty good for a 1-year player there. Could rush the passer on a blitz or off the edge. So if he continues the progress, for again 1 year playing there, if he continues at this, the progress there, and he already has that pass rushing ability, that kind of unique ability, like teams got to be worried about him because of his blitz ability. If he continues to develop as that linebacker, he can be freaky good, like freaky good. Because he's already got that range and everything like that. But he misses a lot of tackles, and that, for being off-ball linebacker, if you don't clean that up, it's going to be tough to do that in the NFL. So if he continues to miss the tackles, he's going to, even with the other really good things part of his game, he's kind of going to be a bust. But if he can clean that up a little bit, I think it's just more just learning the position, getting in the right spot. He's kind of just off the side of guys, not incorrect reads, and, they slip off him a little bit. So I do think he can clean it up, which is more time there. But yeah, if he cleans that up, he's got so many other freaky things in his game that he could be very, very good. I would like for him to go to a team that, wants to blitz their linebacker a little bit. The Giants and the Vikings stand out a bit. Teams that could use another linebacker, and they like to blitz. They want to blitz. The Giants already like to blitz their linebackers. Brian Flores with the Vikings, they're going to want a guy that can blitz like that. And the Commanders lost Cole Holcomb, who was a pretty decent blitzer. I always wanted him to blitz more. I wanted them to blitz him more. Well, they did a bit. More in his earlier years, which he's still younger, but, so only a couple years ago. But so this could be a replacement. I probably would have had the Steelers up there, but the Steelers added Elena Roberts and Cole Holcomb. We were just talking about him. But, yeah, so Washington, I kind of can see them getting kind of creative with him if he drops him in the second round. But he could potentially be a late first-round pick. My recent mock actually had the Vikings trading back to the end of the first round and taking Sanders. I really like that fit there. Yeah, so kind of a freaky dude. Got to clean up those missed tackles. Got to learn the position a little bit more. So you see the boom or bust. And then one more is a cornerback from Georgia. We talked about a few Georgia guys. KELEE Ringo, cornerback from Georgia, who was pretty good already, at Georgia, playing some zone and some man, some press snaps as well. Got his hands in the ball a couple times. But he is a little raw. Sometimes he wants to jump, try to jump the ball, but he misreads it. Guy gets by him. He has some makeup speed, though. I mean, the speed is ridiculous. I can't. What did he run? I think he ran high 4.3s. I've been watching corners recently. I'm watching more of him, and he looks like he's 4.2, and that's more important if you look like that on the field rather than the combine, which he was fast enough at the combine. But this guy could. I mean, he is a freak athlete, freaky speed. So you want to work with that. Does he? Maybe get him to trust or get him to develop better instincts. Obviously, get him maybe a little bit better in man coverage. And then get the most out of him to pair with that athleticism, and he can be that boom guy. But there are better corners like right now, like today, a little more polished, believe it or not, him coming from Georgia. So if he kind of just stays the same and he's just that athletic guy, then he could be on the bust side there. But I'd imagine, as I'm talking out loud right now, I don't really see, he could end up being in the middle. I don't know if he necessarily has to be a bust guy. Like he could be, worst case, maybe he's decent. If you're taking a first round pick on him, you want him to be a boom guy. But because of the range and the speed and getting across the field, the makeup speed, and kind of getting, how he moves towards the ball too, it's a little scary, in a good way. So that kind of, and I've heard other people say this too, and I can see it. They kind of gives you like free safety vibes, with the range, and maybe he can be a little bit more of a playmaker. So that kind of could go in the boom department too. Like you can use him in multiple ways. Could he be even better of a free safety? And there's not too many great ones in the draft. So maybe a team just takes him. Like we need a free safety. We're going to go with the corner that I think could be a free safety. I could see that. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I watch him. I love the Bengals as a fit. He played a good mixture of man and zone in Georgia. Bengals mix it up quite a bit. They're very good at getting the most out of, I was going to say corners, but they're defenders. Like on paper, now because they got the most out of their players, but before this, not this past season, the year before when they went to the Super Bowl year, on paper, that defense did not look that good, but they were really good. They know how to get the most out of their players, which they've done. And really, I think they've been a better defense than what people give them credit for. I know people think they're a really good defense, but I thought at the end, when it was all said and done at the end of last year, I thought you could argue that was the best defense of football. Regular season, give it to the Niners. And the year before they were kind of up there as well. And then, so they could use a corner, but they all, they're getting interesting with their safeties. Let Jesse Bates go. Daxton Hill, who was mainly a slot guy in college, they're going to try to move him to free safety. And they have Nick Scott, who's kind of played strong and free at times as well, but nothing's really set in stone. Like nothing's guaranteed. So having this guy that might have some upside at free safety, if you need him there, obviously, corner might be a little more important. That's kind of a bonus as well. So I do like him with the Bengals. I like the fit with the Panthers as well. In that Ejiro Evero scheme, I think it makes a lot of sense there. If he falls them in the second round, and the Cardinals at the top of the second round, if they don't get a corner with their first pick, I think that's a really good fit in Gannon's scheme. So I do love those fits. There's other fits I like too. I mean, he could work with the Giants, the Vikings, possibly. It depends on, are teams going to be more comfortable with him in zone? Or, man, I'm still trying to figure that out. More of a heavy man scheme, zone scheme, a scheme that mixes it up a little bit. I really love the fits for him that I listed here. I really like the Bengals one. So those are my boomer bust guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you got different ones, of course there could be more. maybe some sleeper boomer bust guys, we can talk about it in the comments. I'm always talking to you guys on Twitter, pretty much instant replies if I see it on Twitter. So there's a link pinned in the comments for that if you want to check that out. Follow us there. All kinds of NFL content here. All kinds. So join us, like, subscribe, to notifications on. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.